Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and welcome to my Should You Pull series, where I give you reasons why you should and should not be pulling for upcoming banners coming to Dissidia Opera Omnia. And today guys, we are going to be taking a look at the next level 70 Crystal Awakening banner that we are going to be getting in Dissidia Opera Omnia. We are only going to be concentrating on one banner because this is where the realizable weapons are going to be. In this banner, you have a chance to get Sephiroth and Eiko's EX weapon alongside with their 15 and their 35 CP weapon. And of course, LVL will be the third wheel in this banner where you can get his 15 and his 35 CP weapon. But without further ado, let's start this video. And we'll start this video off with a returning EX weapon called the Mako Katana for Sephiroth. This gives him the EX ability Black Materia. This basically sets the enemy's brave to 0 except when the enemies are broken. This then will raise his brave base on his attack and will trigger an AoE HP attack. This deals 100% HP damage to all enemies and will grant 1 stack of the reunion buff for 6 turns, with a total stack of 5. This does not consume ability use on the next turn as well. Reunion basically raises the max brave and regens brave based on the number of stacks on Sephiroth. This has a slightly slow recast speed, and at 1 out of 3 limit break, this will moderately raise the brave gain based on his attack. At 2 out of 3, this will grant 3 stacks of reunion after using Black Materia instead of the 1, and at 3 out of 3, this will slightly raise the recast speed of Black Materia. Now if you do want to realize this weapon at 0 out of 3 limit break, when you're using Black Materia, the brave gain can now overflow to 120% of his max brave and will turn his HP attack into HP attack plus, which will be a 3-hit melee brave plus HP attack, and the stolen brave can overflow to 120% of his max brave, and at 1 out of 3 limit break, this will greatly raise Sephiroth's attack, and at 2 out of 3 limit break, when the quest starts, he will start off with 3 stacks of Genova and raises his max brave and attack based on the number of Genova stacks as well. He will also have 2 stacks of his reunion buff for 6 turns. And finally, at 3 out of 3, when you're using Black Materia, this will again slightly raise the max brave overflow limit for the gained brave. And it will slightly raise the max brave overflow limit of the stolen braves on all abilities. And the bonus sphere that you're going to get if you do max this out is called Last Boost Attack Up. If his HP or anyone's HP that you equip this to is more than 50% when the final battle starts, this will slightly raise their max brave and their attack by 10%. These same spears do not stack however, so this is not too OP of a spear. So after hearing all this information regarding Sephiroth's EX Plus or realized weapon, how much should you be investing on Sephiroth's EX? I do highly suggest you start off at 2 out of 3 limit break because this is when he gets his starting buffs at the start of the quest. Basically, you get 3 stacks of Genova and you get 2 stacks of reunion as well. This makes it so that your ramp up time when it comes to Sephiroth is really cut in half. Basically, all you have to do is use one of your abilities and you pretty much got the full stacks for Genova, and all you have to do is pretty much wait for his EX ability and you will have a full stacks of his reunion buff as well. And now the question is, should you actually go to 3 out of 3 when maxing out your Sephiroth? Well, this is a little bit kind of debatable in a way. You do get an increase of overflow limit once again with his EX ability. The kicker here is he does get more brave overflow limit on all his abilities, which is really nice if you really think about it. And if you are new to this channel or new player in Dissidia Omnia and you haven't really used Sephiroth before, Sephiroth will most likely always cap when he uses his abilities. So having an extra overflow limit added to those abilities is actually a pretty good thing for Sephiroth, since for the most part all the extra brave damage he does is basically will just go away if you actually don't have an extra overflow limit. So in my opinion, I think it's well worth going 3 out of 3 for Sephiroth overall, but again, minimum amount is 2 out of 3 if you're really cheap. You don't really have to go 3 out of 3 to make him effective. At 2 out of 3, I think he is quite effective already. Alright guys, so now let's take a look at a new EX weapon that we are getting in the global version of the game, and it's for Eiko. It's called the Tiger Racket. Now, Tiger Racket will give the EX ability called Terra Homing. It is a 3-hit holy AoE magic brave plus HP attack. The brave hits are dispersed when there are multiple targets, and the stolen brave can overflow up to 120% of her max brave. The HP damage will be split equally amongst all enemies and will restore the party's HP based on the HP damage dealt up to 20% of their max HP. If the amount restored exceeds the max HP, the excess is converted to Brave, and this will also inflict the Holy Resistance down debuff for 4 turns and will grant the double white magic for 4 turns. That is a buff for Eiko. Now, this is basically when the double white magic buff is active, it will turn her HP attack and her HP attack plus into double holy. This is going to be a 2-hit Holy Magic Brave plus HP attack that is triggered twice. This will raise the Brave based on her initial Brave before the second attack. The stolen Brave can overflow up to 120% of her max Brave and will also deal a 50% splash damage to non-targets. This will, however, dispel the double white magic buff after its use. Now, double white magic also has a Brave regen effect as well, and this EX ability has a slow recast speed. At 1 out of 3 limit break, this will slightly raise the brave damage dealt by Terra Homing, at 2 out of 3 increasing its recast speed, and at 3 out of 3 slightly increasing Eiko's attack. Now, if you do decide to realize this weapon at 0 out of 3 limit break, when you're using Terra Homing, this will moderately raise its brave potency and slightly increase the max brave overflow limit. At 1 out of 3, this will moderately raise her max brave and her attack as well. And while buff, her HP attack and her HP attack plus will go into the plus variant, which will be a Holy Magic Brave plus HP attack, which will have a 120% max brave overflow limit. This will restore the party's HP based on the HP damage dealt up to 10% of their max HP as well. Now, at 2 out of 3 limit break, when the quest starts, this will grant the entire party an HP regen, medium attack up, and a medium max brave up for 12 turns. And this will immediately fill up her EX gauge as well at the start of the quest. And finally, at 3 out of 3, when you're using Terra Homing, this will increase the brave hits to 6 instead of the 3. This will increase the brave potency once again, and again increasing the max brave overflow limit. And now when you're using double holy, this increases the number of brave hits to 4, and of course increasing its brave potency as well, and slightly raising its max brave overflow limit. The bonus sphere that you're going to be getting here is called the Buff Success HP Heal. After granting a buff, this will restore 10% of their max HP. This can only trigger once per turn. Now, when this event does come around, Eiko will actually get a rework as well. As far as I can tell, for her first ability, HP Regen Extend, the difference will be a slightly improved max brave up and attack up buffs, and basically this will now restore the party's HP based on the HP damage dealt up to 20% of their max HP, and if the amount exceeds their max HP, the excess is now converted to brave. Other than that, there's really not much difference from what her ability 1 is. The other one is of course her ability 2, which is the Smite Extend. This will now increase the number of brave hits of Smite to 4, and also giving it a 120% max brave overflow limit. This also changes her brave attack plus, which will now be a 2-hit holy magic brave attack, which again will always raise the party's brave based on her attacks, and this will have a moderately increase on the brave potency as well, whereas before it only raises the party's brave based on her attack. So after hearing all this information regarding Eiko's EX plus her, obviously her rework, how much should you be investing on Eiko? I do kind of feel like you have to go 2 out of 3 with her as well. The reason for this minimum limit break is obviously when the quest starts, just like Kate Sith, everyone just gets a buff at the start of the quest, and meaning they immediately will have HP regen, a medium attack up, and also a medium max brave up. And this will last for 12 turns, which is kind of great. It's immensely great. This also fills up her EX gauge really early. Well, it fills it up at the start of the quest, so yeah, that's really early, Monch. But in any case, this will immediately have you access to her double holy ability, which is her HP attack plus. Think of it just like Vivi's EX ability, where he manages to change his HP attack to double fire, I believe. So this acts the same way. This is what she sorely needs, a little bit more damage output apart from just the, you know, brave battery and of course the support. Extra damage is definitely going to be helpful in the chaos stage. Now, do I feel like 3 out of 3 is actually well worth it for Eiko? I do believe it kind of is, because this increases the number of brave hits for double holy to 4. This makes sure that you're actually taking advantage of that increase of brave hits, and of course making sure that Eiko actually caps on those attacks as well and doing more damage than she would normally do. Now, the extra brave hits on terror homing is kind of nice, and of course the increase of potency and the max brave overflow is nice, but to me the double holy is probably the biggest factor, at least in my opinion, in going, if you do decide to go 3 out of 3 for Eiko. And so we're finally at the end of this video, guys, and of course I'll give you guys some reasons why you should and should not be pulling on this banner. Now, first things first, as you guys may have noticed, this is a different format, and this hopefully will minimize the amount of times I actually repeat myself when it comes to reasons. And what I'm going to do is put both reasonings side by side, or up and down, I guess, in this case, so I don't repeat myself over and over, or at least try to prevent myself from doing that. So let's go over the first reason why you should and should not be pulling for this banner. You should pull for this banner if you actually need a melee DPS or a support character. Sephiroth and Eiko are both very effective, and Sephiroth is a very good brave shaver, and of course he will deal a lot of damage to the enemies. Eiko is also a pretty good support. Now she has options when it comes to dealing damage, whereas before she was kinda okay, but she wasn't really dealing a lot of HP damage to begin with. Now, the first two reasons why you should not be pulling for this banner is whether you have a lot of melee DPSs and of course a lot of support options already. Now, like I said earlier, Sephiroth is actually like the pinnacle of a brave shaver. However, there are a lot of melee DPSs that kind of fill in that role as well, such as Tifa, Cloud, Bartz, or even Squall. They are all very good brave shaver. Obviously, you can't really compare Sephiroth to anyone else. He's, but like I said, the pinnacle of a brave shaver and maxed out attack, and that's basically what he is. It's kind of hard to, like, because he doesn't really debuff in a certain way. His aura does slow down the enemies, but other than that, he is a one-dimensional character where basically all he does is Brave Shave and do lots of HP attacks as much as he can with the amount of abilities that he has. Now, as for the support options, we do have quite a lot, like I mentioned earlier. We have Rosa, Yuna, Kate Sith, and even Charlotta to a certain extent. And honestly, there are an abundance of support characters that are out right now, and they are pretty decent. So Eiko is fighting for a small spot in the support options. So if you already have a lot of these characters, you probably don't really need Eiko any longer. But in saying that, the closest comparison that I feel that is quite fair with Eiko is going to be Kate Sith, because they both start off the quest with a party buff. Now obviously Kate Sith is a melee attacker and Eiko is a magic holy element support, but essentially they kind of act the same way. So I think that is kind of a fair comparison, because you can't really compare two characters. They're always going to be unique ways or unique quirks that they will have. Now moving on to the second reason why you should be pulling for this is if you actually need more characters for Dimensions End. Now obviously Dimensions End is going to be updated every month in the global version of the game, and of course if you are lacking in the characters, say you're lacking in melee DPS, and of course for a support character for different stages of Dimensions End, then you probably should be pulling for this banner. And this can be the opposite for why you should not be pulling for this, is if you already had, like I said, an abundance of different characters and you've already cleared the latest added addition to Dimensions End, and you are pretty much prepared for the next set of floors, or it should be one floor actually. And the final reason why you should be pulling for this is actually if you're a big fan of Sephiroth and of course Eiko. Now I know there are a lot of fans for Sephiroth, and if you really are a big fan then and you don't own his EX weapon or his 15 and 35 CP, then you go ahead and pull for this, because definitely Sephiroth is going to help you out in the Chaos stages and even in some floors in the Dimensions End. And now as for the last reason why you should not be pulling for this is basically if you are looking forward to the other characters that are coming out later in the month of February. At first you have 8, which is another melee DPS, and you have Ignis, which is a support type character, and of course Aranea, which is going to be our 2nd anniversary global first character, and maybe to a certain extent you want Zack as well, and of course Golbez is coming out in a couple of days. So there are a lot of options when it comes to DPS and support coming later in the month of February. Anyway guys, I think that will be the end of this video. Please remember to click like and subscribe if you haven't already. It does help my little channel to grow if you click that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And of course, leaving a like on this video is going to help with the YouTube algorithm as well. Make sure to follow me on my social media. I am on Facebook and on Twitter at Munchkins Gaming. Leave down in the comments below whether you're pulling for this or you're gonna wait for the upcoming banners coming up. Let me know down in the comments below. This is Munchkins logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.